I've been in law enforcement for 10 years, and I'm speaking to my peers, other fellow officers, people in any kind of law enforcement position. I've seen officers nationwide enforcing tyrannical orders against the people, and I'm hoping it's the minority of officers, but I'm not sure anymore, because every time I turn on the television, every time I look to the internet, I'm seeing people arrested or cited for going to church, for traveling on the roadways, for going surfing, opening their businesses, going to the park with their families, or doing nails out of their own house, using their own house as a place of business, and having undercover agents go there and arrest them and charge them with what? With a crime? I don't know what crime people are committing by doing nails in their own house, but we're seeing this more and more and more, and we need to start looking at ourselves as officers and thinking, is what I'm doing right? Now, I want to remind you that regardless of where you stand on the coronavirus, we don't have the authority to do those things to people just because a mayor or a governor tells you otherwise. I don't care if it's your sergeant or your chief of police. We don't get to violate people's constitutional rights because somebody in our chain of command tells us otherwise. It's not how this country works. Those are de facto arrests. You know, we're violating people's rights and taking money from them, or even worse, arresting them and depriving them of their freedom when they are exercising their constitutional rights. So let's talk about that. Let's read something right here off of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. Among these, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed, meaning our power and any government official's power is derived from the people. Okay? We don't hold power over our citizens. It's contradictory to everything that our country stands for. And this is what I'm seeing. First Amendment rights, telling people they can't go to church, freedom of religion. Okay? Telling people they can't protest, freedom of assembly. Fourth Amendment violations, illegal traffic stops to check for papers. What are you, the Gestapo? Is this 1930s Nazi Germany? You don't get to stop people unless you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they have committed a crime. And I know people that have personally been stopped saying, we want to see papers showing that you're essential.
David 2, copy a phone call.
That is not how our job works, okay? What really has been pissing me off lately is the fact that these officers that are going out here and enforcing these tyrannical orders, what they're doing is they're making my job and my safety, or they're putting my job and my safety at risk. Because what you're doing is you're widening the gap between public trust and law enforcement officers. And what that's going to do is it's going to, I mean, look at what's happened to law enforcement in the last 10 years. Less and less public trust, and more often than not, that is a result of isolated incidents that get blown out of proportion. Well, they're not isolated anymore. They're happening every single day. And the thing that I want you guys to realize is that our power that we hold as law enforcement officers is nothing more than a facade. It's a badge and a gun. And people, you don't realize, if you haven't lived in anarchy, if you haven't seen combat, things can be stripped from people in a heartbeat. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that these actions are going to wake a sleeping giant, i.e. the American people, okay? They are going to be put in a position where they won't have their rights trampled anymore. And us as law enforcement officers, we'll have our ability to enforce the law stripped from us in about 10 minutes. Okay? I think what is going to happen if this continues is we're going to see bloodshed in the streets. Okay? I don't want to see bloodshed in the streets on either side of this coin. I don't want to see fellow officers get injured or killed, and I certainly don't want to see citizens get injured or killed. And I promise you, most of you out there doing these tyrannical acts against our citizens, you're not ready for combat. You're not mentally or physically ready for combat in the first place. I promise you, you don't want to go through that, and I hope I never have to go through that again. You don't get to just say, well, I'm doing this because I was told to do so, or I'm following orders, or I need to keep this job. Like, I have the same sob story that the rest of you guys have, but my personal choices and my living arrangements, no matter what they are, don't allow me to trample on people's rights. And I don't understand why that concept is so hard for people to understand. Listen, you need to stand up for what's right. You need to, if you're part of a department or an agency that is asking people or asking their officers or their deputies to impose on people's rights and infringe on their freedoms, you need to step up and say, no, that's not me. That's not what I signed up for, and that's going against my oath. And if that costs you your job, so be it. At least you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror at night. I've already expressed this to my department. And luckily for me, I come from a department that I feel like my chain of command shares my view, but I don't care what department you're part of or what your chain of command thinks. You don't get to trample on people's liberty. And so, as a special operations veteran, I've fought on the streets of Iraq under the U.S. government's guise of freedom. And I'm telling you what, the American people are going to you are going to wake a sleeping giant, and they are going to fight 10 times harder for their freedom on their soil than anything you've ever seen before. And if that's something you're willing to face, then keep trampling on people's rights. But I promise you, the American spirit of defiance is going to rise again, and it's going to be a big problem for our country. So I'll leave you with this, something that I learned as an E-nothing in the Army. No matter what situation you're put in, if you look inside yourself and ask yourself one question, am I doing the right thing? You ask yourself that, you know the answer. And no amount of money or no order or law or anything should be able to make you go against doing the right thing. So I'm imploring officers to look inside themselves and ask themselves, is this what I want to be doing to my citizens? And I think the answer is clear. And if we all stand up together, guess what? It'll be a non-issue, no factor, because people and law enforcement will be united like we should be.
My name is Michael Seney. I wanted to make a quick video after seeing one recently from a fellow police officer who pointed out and was very verbal about his thoughts that I believe many of us share. I decided to make my own video, encourage others to do the same. What we've seen in recent months is none other than what I believe is going to be viewed as one of the biggest power grabs in American history. We've seen the Constitution seemingly suspended and constitutional rights of citizens tossed aside under the guise of safety and security, something that we've seen before as well. I swore an oath to the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I stand on that oath, and I will continue to stand on that oath, and there is not a human being that can alter my oath between myself and the Constitution, myself and God. choice means having multiple options. If you find yourself only looking at what you see on one news source or the other, that's not choice. You're just falling in line. You know, I ask every human being and every American citizen to question things and look at them. Look at both sides. Anyone that knows me from my political side of my life knows that I don't really walk one side hard left or hard right. I stand somewhere in the middle, a place I am proud to be. But you have to look and at least acknowledge some of these videos like Plandemic, where we have doctors out there talking about some things that are inconsistent with what you're seeing in mainstream media. At least look at it. Look at it and then decide, okay, does that make sense or not, and make a choice. Because that's what freedom's about, choice. But if you're not even watching these things and you're just taking one side and just eating every bit of it and projecting it, then what are you really? Sheep, okay? We look for more than that and expect more. You're supposed to educate yourself before you vote. I always do. I read things. That's part of where I've made it this far in life, and my opinion's made because I make them. I judge nobody by what anyone says. I judge them on my own interactions. You should judge this entire situation on your personal interactions and see what you come up with. You know, as far as immune system goes, I find it so troubling that people are so quick to lock themselves in their house for 60, 90 days. Yes, corona is terrible. Yes, it's killing people, and that scares me. But I always look for a strategy to beat something, not just to barely survive, okay? I'm out there every single day dealing with people and dirty germs, and I've been just fine. Even per Governor Cuomo's daily news, and I'm going to post a picture on here. Today, I took a screenshot of his newscast, and as of today, May 7th, he put out there that 66% of new corona cases are coming from people that are not leaving their house. Ask yourself why. Well, if you look at any of these doctors that recently put a video up about your immune system, it's that every one of us goes out there and touches dirty germs all day, every day. Children do it all during your existence. And those germs ultimately serve to increase and boost your immune system's ability to fight common things, like even say a cold. Now, ask yourself, if somebody's in their house for 120 days surrounded by Lysol and no new germs, no immune system activation from 90 days of being around the same exact things, what do you think is going to happen in the fall when they start to leave their house? I would suggest a common cold is now going to possibly spike their fever and put them in the hospital. That's problematic. That's going to cause a hospital overflow. Young 20-year-olds that have perfectly healthy immune systems can keep social distancing. I just call that self-respect. But to lock yourself away from society and shut down our economy and deteriorate our entire society's immune systems, it's not right. As of today, 66% of new cases of corona are coming from people that are from their home, have not left their home. Yet they get it. Do they touch groceries? Do they have Amazon still coming to their house? I'm pretty sure they do, and they're still getting it. Those of us that are out here every day have herd immunity. I'm not afraid to say that anymore. The truth is, I remember being sick months ago. I know many people that have, and we're just okay now. Think about that. Think about your own interactions and see if you can really say that you've given this the thought of both sides, or are you just following along? Another thing that should flag to any of us is censorship. I've been censored more times in the last 2 months than I have ever in my life. And when I say censored, I mean I put things on Facebook. I'm not getting a notice that says, hey, you violated our policy, this can't be on there. That hasn't happened to me one time. I don't even know what that looks like. But I know that I've communicated with people, and within a couple volleys of thread in the public setting, the entire thread disappears, and that's just that. Last time it happened to me was yesterday. I was in communication with a young female who basically pointed out some inconsistencies in the media. Scrolling through, I said, you're exactly right. Look into this. She said something, I said something, entire thread disappeared. She then reached out to me and said, did you erase it? No, I didn't. She's confused. How did that just happen? That's never happened to her before. I told her, welcome to the club. The censorship going on right now on social media is alarming. It should alarm you. Videos are being taken down under the guise of for public safety. And here's another point that fires me up to no end. When you have men in power literally saying that you are not allowed to protest during the pandemic. You're not allowed to protest during the pandemic? You're right. You don't want people on top of each other. But then you need to stop making laws and changing things. The entire American system of government is based on the fact that you work for the people. And when you push the people too hard, they come together and tell you you need to knock it off. So when you're saying you cannot exercise that hugely important American right, but you're still continuing to make laws and change things and implement changes that have far-reaching effects, do you see the monopoly here? Don't protest, not allowed to protest, don't leave your house, but we're going to change X, Y, Z. And then suddenly I see Bill Gates, suddenly in charge of New York education. He's got no background in that. He's a good computer guy. I don't buy any of this. You want to change our entire way of life based on something that has a kill. It does kill, but at a smaller number than they've projected. And some people are willing to change our entire way of life. I despise every single time I'm forced as a healthy person to walk around here with a mask on. I don't like it. It's unconstitutional. It is completely unconstitutional. So if you're okay with it, at least be able to admit and say, yes, it is unconstitutional, but I support breaking the Constitution from time to time. But don't sit here and say somehow that anybody that dissents your opinion that you should be locked in your house for 3 months or 4 months is somehow not supporting the team. I'm out here supporting the team every day. I've served in combat theaters all over this world. And there's that other point I wanted to make. This other police officer did too. He's an Army Special Operations operator, and now he's a police officer. And he brings a great point, and it hit me hard this morning when I watched his video. He says flat out, you know, how terrible combat is, and that a lot of these people don't understand how close it could be when you really start trampling on people's rights for them to rise up. That is part of the American spirit. And we're seeing these people start to talk, and the chatter's up, hence, you know, all the suppression on social media. I've been overseas and I've been in combat, and it's terrifying. And I was in a country that has been abused for hundreds of years under a complete and utter dictatorship. And with old equipment and limited supplies, they put up one heck of a fight. Those of you out there that think that somehow Americans are just going to roll over and continue to let you trample all over their rights, especially you police officers, I will tell you, I am not naive to what some of the people in this world have, and Americans especially, the kind of hardware they keep locked in deep, dark places. And I am well aware of their fighting spirit, because 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was one of them too. I put on a badge because I'm proud to serve my community in a helpful manner. I wear this badge right here because I support the Constitution of the United States of America, and I've already accepted and resigned myself that I'd be willing to risk my life over, you know, for anyone else's that I stated an oath to serve. In this case, me being verbal right now is the same exact concept. People need to open their eyes. Look what's going on. Look at multiple media sources. Look at some of these videos and really ask yourself if this is all making sense to you. Do these steps are we taking, are they effective? If they are effective, how is 66% of new corona cases in New York coming from people that haven't left their house? Think on that for a minute. Just know, if you're a police officer out there, I hope you all start to really get the nerve to speak your mind and speak the truth. Point out these things, and hopefully others will join. They're starting to see doctors out there and come together to really make it clear that we support the Constitution. We support human life and protecting the most human life we can in this country. And we can't do that if we cripple our economy and send our young and healthy to erase their immune systems in their homes. I support everyone's right of free choice. Whether you want to stay in your house for 1 year or not, that's up to you, and I support every bit of your right to do that, because this is America. But stop virtue signaling and acting like the rest of us are criminals because we want to go visit our relative who wants to visit us. Because I'll tell you right now, I visit my family. Yes, I do. And I'll continue to do that. And there's not a human being that's going to stop me from doing that. To the rest of you out there, I wish you all the best. Be safe. Educate yourself. And just know There are officers out here that understand what's going on, and we stand to defend the oath to the Constitution above all else. Thanks.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I just kind of wanted to take a couple minutes, get everybody caught up to speed on what's going on in my life. I've been getting a lot of questions, and figured I'd just make a second video and answer some of the things that I've been receiving. I first wanted to say I'm humbled by the response that my video got. It's been viewed millions and millions of times. People all over the country have been calling me, texting me, sending me emails, comments, and the overwhelming majority of it has been positive. And so I think that's pretty cool, because my whole thought process on making that video was trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the public. And I've seen both sides with open arms willing to embrace that. And I think that's a step in the right direction. So that's pretty cool. One thing that I've seen come up over and over in the comments, and I've been in email sent to me, is, are you gonna get in trouble? What happened to you? Or is there any discipline any discipline taking place? And so I figured I'd take a chance and give you a little synopsis of the last 3 days of my life after posting that video. So I posted the video on Tuesday, was it May 5th? And it took it took a day or two before it really started getting a lot of traction. But the next morning when I woke up on the 6th, I think it was only at a few thousand views. And I had received a message from my command saying, wow, Greg, what a powerful message. We agree with that 100%, well done. And that was actually a relief for me, because I was like, great, I know that it's risky putting something out like that, but I felt like it was so grounded in integrity and liberty that no one would have an issue with it. So that was a relief. And then fast forward 3 hours later, I get another phone call from my command, and it said, hey Greg, the video's up to 400,000 views. It's time to pull the plug on this thing. And I immediately, it kind of caught me off guard, because I said, why would we want to pull the plug on something that was already acknowledged as a good and powerful message from one law enforcement officer to others? And I said, yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. I think maybe we should embrace this message and we should share this with other officers. And he said, listen, it's not up to me. I have been directed to tell you to take the video down, and I need to know if you're going to take the video down. And I said, no, I can't take the video down, because if you listen to my first video, the whole message that I was trying to share with people and impart on them is, if you believe in something in your heart, you have to stand by that conviction, even if it costs you everything. And like I said last time, I have 3 little kids. I have this house, I have another house. I cannot afford to lose my job. But after putting that message out there and sharing that with America, and it was so well received, I can't then just say, even though that's what I believe, I'm gonna take a step back, I'm gonna retract my words, and I'm gonna allow my command to prevent me from sharing my heart and my truth. And I said, so with that in mind, sir, I can't take the video down. And, I didn't know where this was gonna go. And I immediately started thinking about, what are they gonna try and gig me on? What did I do wrong? What policy did I violate? And I got called back a couple hours later, and by this time, it was skyrocketing. Everyone in the agency was seeing it. Cops from when I was an officer down in Los Angeles, they were contacting me. I got a call and it said, listen, the video needs to be taken down right now, and you need to accept a letter of reprimand, or we're gonna take a very different approach to this if you say no again. Well, I'd already put myself on that hill, and I had to be willing to die on that hill. They said they determined the video was a violation of policy, and that if I wouldn't take it down, that allegations would be made against me, and so on and so on. And so I told him, no, I'm not going to take it down. You do what you need to do. But the principle of it is rooted in truth, and it was a positive message that was received by millions and millions of people. If you want me to take it down, I have to respectfully refuse. And it was interesting because they kept citing different policies, you know, like, oh, it was the social media policy, or some of your equipment may have been identifiable. And that kind of seemed like a moot point to me. And it was strange because why was the message okay at 5 a.m. and then 3 hours later, there was a problem with it? And so I was later contacted by the chief of police. He's someone that I have great respect for. He's a good man to work for. And he's the one that shot me straight. And he said, Greg, if you openly defy your governor, you can't be a police officer in the state of Washington. And I told him, I said, you know what, I can respect that. And if I were in your office, I would shake your hand and respectfully disagree and say, maybe I'm not meant to be a police officer in the state of Washington then. And here's my thoughts on that, okay? You have to do your research. You have to figure out what your true north is, what your truth is, and where you stand on issues. For me personally, I believe that the Constitution supersedes all other documents, all other laws. There's case law supporting that. If you look at Marbury versus Madison, 1803, it says any future laws created that are repugnant, meaning in conflict with the Constitution, are null and void. So when I look at how I feel comfortable enforcing the law, and I see people exercising constitutional rights, it doesn't matter if there's different executive orders, requests from mayors, requests from governors. To me, the Constitution supersedes that, and I'm going to stand with the people. Well, unfortunately, you know, higher up in all agencies, there's a political game being played, and now I am on a administrative leave status pending termination. I was told by both the agency and the union that I was asked to take it down, and I refused. So that's refusing a direct order. It's an insubordination charge, and it will result in me ultimately being let go from the agency. And I said, you know what, if that's what you guys have to do, if that video is so bad that you want to take my career from me, and you want to leave my, you know, like potentially take my ability away to provide for my family because of that video, do it. Because I'm going to stand by my convictions, just like I said in my last video. So yeah, it's weird, you know, how fast your life can change in a week. It's something that I never thought would happen. I never thought that I would make a video that would resonate with millions of people. But you know, my head is held high. I'm not intimidated or upset by how this played out. Like I said in my last video, man, I fought in the streets of Ramadi during 04 and 05. I came to terms long ago that my convictions and my beliefs may cost me everything up into my life. And even though it's 15 years later and I'm a police officer in Seattle, Washington, that truth still remains for me. So I don't have an option to back down or feel sorry for myself or give in and say, you know what, I got kids and I think I'm just gonna take the letter. No, if they wanna do me like this for standing up for liberty, they can do that. I'll leave you guys with this. You know, it's on to the new adventure for me. I've been doing different things my whole life, and I'm actually excited, to tell you the truth. If you know of anyone accepting resumes, hit me up, because I might need it in the near future. But, you know, I've always wanted to circumnavigate the globe on a sailboat, so maybe it's time to chase that dream. Anyways, I appreciate all the support, guys. Take care.
Got in a little trouble for that video the other day, and I will start off by saying it shouldn't have been in uniform. But I want to give you the build-up and as to why I felt the need to do that so immediately. On that day, I was on patrol, and I already watched that video in the morning of the other officer as I described, and everything he said is spot on, and I hope the rest of you have seen that video as well. But ultimately, I ended up pulling into Stewart's, and I'm sitting there and I'm just about to get out of the car myself. Some guy pulls next to me, looks like me 5 years ago, and I watched him look at me and then immediately become extremely uncomfortable. Then I watched him, I could just see him cursing and throwing things around in his car. He started throwing stuff in the back, and he's just getting pissed off, and I could see that. It's very easy to see. And finally he finds like a little girl's t-shirt, a doll's t-shirt. I don't even know what little pink rag he had, but he just held it in front of his face and got out of the car. So I got out of the car because I immediately had like a knot in my stomach that all of a sudden he's looking at me like I'm the problem here. Like I'm going to be the one that leans into him. Like he doesn't have enough going on in this world, and all of a sudden he's got to worry about me, jumping down his neck. So anyway, I ended up coming over. I said, hey, and as soon as he heard that, defensive as could be, was upset. Like, what do you want? I said, well, we're on the same team. We're on the same team. He kind of froze, and we talked for a couple minutes, and I told him, get your coffee. I put my mask on to go into Stewart's as well. But I wanted to make it clear that we're on the same team. Like, these people are stressing out that we're not against you. Enough things are going on with police. The last thing in the world, this guy trying to get a coffee to go into Stewart's was looking at me like I'm the threat. Like I'm going to freak out at him. I'm not. That fired me up. I went to my spot and I made that video. I'll tell you, shouldn't have done it while I was in uniform. I'm currently suspended without pay for a couple of weeks. That's okay. Do the crime, do the time. So I'll sit here and I'll take that. I'm a little surprised by the no pay thing, but I made my point, and honestly, I stand by every single word that I said before, and sometimes doing the right thing costs you a little bit. Here I am. I got my kids for a couple extra weeks. And one other thing I thought was interesting is, with my newly found time off, I thought to myself, I got a lot of Marine friends. They're all over the country, down in Florida, they're in Texas, they're in California, Idaho. I could go on and on. But I think I'm going to go talk to them and see what they think as police officers around the country, how they're dealing with this, and what their perceptions are as a bunch of Marine Corps combat veteran police officers. Stand by for those videos. Be safe, everyone, and keep your eyes open.